The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Welcome back. It's time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor, Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk, the State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick. Happy Monday.
Good morning and happy Monday to you.
You spoke to Congressman Jim Himes. Maybe you could tell us his take on what he thought of the latest guidelines from the White House.
Yeah, so the context of this is we spoke on Friday about the White House and various departments in the federal government publishing reports in response to President Joe Biden's executive order on crypto. Now, several of these reports touched on this idea of central bank digital currencies, and I had the opportunity to speak with Representative Himes of Connecticut about not just the reports themselves, but also his views. Now, Congressman Himes has been a defender of this idea of a central bank digital currency or a digital dollar for quite a while. In June, he published a white paper addressing some of the concerns and some of the benefits that he saw around it. So when we got a chance to speak on Friday, he reiterated his views. He spoke a little bit about the potential benefits of a central bank digital currency to the U.S. populace, not just as a general tool of transaction, but from his seat as a lawmaker who is on various committees, including committees that address national security as well as economic disparity. He said that it has the potential to help out a lot of folks in the U.S.
The White House's releases were sort of a good contribution to an effort that is really picking up very notable momentum in Washington. I actually think the action is largely on Capitol Hill. In the Financial Services Committee on which I sit, there's a bipartisan effort to get a stablecoin bill put together. On the Senate side, you've got obviously a agricultural committee bill that would describe the authorities of the Commodity Futures Trading Corporation. So, where the rubber meets the road, I think Congress is making good progress.
Also, Congressman Himes weighed in on Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg's stablecoin ambitions and how it was received in Washington. Maybe you can tell us a bit about about that.
Well, the short version is, and this is something I've heard echoed by quite a lot of people over the past 3 years now. The idea of Facebook getting involved in money freaked out a lot of lawmakers and regulators, not just in the US, but around the world. We saw that in the response to Libra. We see that in the fact that so many countries are now, coming up with stablecoin regulations. A lot of that is in response to Libra. It's not in response to, Tether, not to Circle, not to any of the other stablecoins that have been out there. It's in response to this one hypothetical one that never quite got off the ground.
So you're saying basically that Facebook, particularly Zuck, kind of flubbed this whole thing. And is that what Himes was basically saying? I mean, it sounds like he, from my understanding, is that he was not exactly, and that people in Congress were kind of maybe flabbergasted by what they were doing.
Yeah, so Congressman Himes' point is that, that was a pretty disastrous way to introduce, this idea to Congress. And, as many of us were there, but this was really kind of the moment where crypto went from being, it's like this bunch of nerds in the corner to, wow, like these big companies, this massive, social media company that has been tied to so many things and which is just coming off of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, wants to get involved in money. So, that really was a turning point, I think, for society in general. A lot of us, and Congressman Himes' point is that was I think his word was disastrous way to introduce crypto to Congress.
So one last thing, of course, Ripple and the SEC. It seems like they are both telling the judge, from my understanding, is, hey, you have everything now. Come up with a judgment so we don't have to go to trial. Is that correct?
Right. So these were filings published over the weekend. They were submitted last week, but both the SEC and Ripple have filed what's called motions for summary judgment, basically asking for an immediate decision. Nothing really new in those motions. The SEC says that Ripple violated securities laws. Ripple says no, they did not. It's really going to be up to the judge to decide, A, has either of the parties made a strong enough argument and provided enough evidence to support their argument, or B, is there not enough information? Do they need to go to a trial? And, I think we're going to be waiting on to see what the judge says now, whether that's scheduling a specific hearing. I haven't seen yet if there is a hearing scheduled, so maybe there is already, but there might be a hearing on these motions first for the attorneys on, each side to say, well, here's our points and here's our arguments and here's how we're going to lay it out. And then after that, we'll get a ruling from the judge. And, it could be a pretty critical ruling. It could either, create some kind of precedent for companies in the crypto space to adhere to in terms of, what the SEC's jurisdiction and power looks like, or, the can will be kicked down the road. We'll find out, when they do go to trial, when there is a, actual jury decision at the end of, it'll take a while. It's going to be a long process.